What are your do-nots in a fine dining situation? From a chef working in fine dining, don't stress, it's just food, and our main goal is that you, the diner, have a great time. Most of us cooks are in it for the love of food and cooking, and we love nothing more than to make people happy with our food. Order a prime cut of steak well done. We'll groan and silently judge, but we'll make it the best damn well done steak you've ever had. You only eat steamed vegetables without seasoning? Fine. We'll make you a beautiful steamed veg platter. Wanna fill up on bread? Great. We'll pack up your dessert course as nicely as we can. Don't know shit about wine? That's what we have sommeliers for, and they work hard with the chef to find the perfect match for everything on the menu. Don't know which utensil to use? When a server is making $500 in tips on a slow night, they're well trained to be patient and accommodating to all guests' needs, including teaching them the finer details of cutlery placement. The restaurant industry is a labor of love, and those of us in it love nothing more than to share our love of it with others. Don't be afraid to sound dumb, that's the only way to learn. Service industry has huge opportunities for income. As an underwriter, I've seen cases where waitresses are pulling down six figures gross. Upscale dining, resort dining, banquet serving. There are a lot of options that can be extremely well compensated. You can also work at Schmuck's Dinner and make $50 a night in tips. Don't lose out on enjoying the meal because you are concerned about etiquette you don't know. The staff have seen it all, and in fact if you're uncertain about something you can just ask, "How do I eat this? I've never had this here. What is it and what is it like? How can it be safe to eat raw beef?" Are all legit questions. Had to kinda do this when I was eating at a restaurant that put as much effort into their plating as their food. Central in Lima. It got very tricky at some points to identify the food from the inedible garnishes. The waiter was nice enough to point out the first time I left some of the food behind because it looked like it was just igneous rock, and from then on I just double-checked with each course. Wait for the host, if you are not the host, to take their napkin before you take yours. It can be used to indicate that the party is complete, the party is ready for the service, etc. Observe as you enter to see if a maid is placing the napkins on diners, sometimes ladies only. Small napkins can go on a single leg, usually left, larger ones across the lap. Napkin doesn't go back on the table until you are done with all the courses. It's a signal that the meal has ended for you as a diner or for your party if you are host. When the waiter brings you your filet mignon and it's medium well instead of medium rare, don't choke them with their uniform tie. It's the chef's fault and most likely intentional, so you are legally allowed to challenge him to a duel with either crossbows or swords. You should pick crossbows because most chefs are terrible shots and at least above average with bladed weapons. Do not be intimidated. Ask the waiter what you want, and how you want it cooked. Relax. It's going to be expensive. You are there for good food, and to relax. If the waiter is pompous, or looking down on you, ask for the head waiter, tell him the issue, and have him replaced. The only rule in a very expensive, high-end restaurant, is do not annoy the other diners. If you're there for business, on someone else's dime, use your manners and proper etiquette. As a waiter of fine dining who works in fine dining daily, I can honestly say a lot of these answers are trying way too hard and are overly pretentious. Eat your food, pay your bill, tip 20%, and go just like any other place lol. I serve at a pretty fancy restaurant. It's amazing how many grown-ass adults have atrocious table manners. I don't mean snotty etiquette, I mean like chew with mouths open, yak on the phone loudly, put their feet on the seat and just bark orders like a spoiled child who spend their youth screaming at their parents and caregivers without being told number. I can also generally tell what kind of tip I'm going to get based on how polite, rude you are. A restaurant served their Caesar salad with an anchovy. My sister doesn't like fish and wanted a new one without fish on it. So she told them she was allergic. She didn't know Caesar dressing is made with anchovy and had to order something else. Serves were right. I waited tables and had a group of high school kids where one was a vegetarian and was trying to figure out what to eat. The options were fairly limited, so I rattled off what we could do. She didn't pick any of those. In the end, she decided to have the French onion soup, which obviously was not on my list. I just kept my mouth shut and got her the soup, as I had already wasted several minutes while she struggled to decide what she could have. I am in a weird gray area on this one. I have chronic migraines. I have certain trigger foods that will cause a migraine almost every time. Every product I buy, every meal I purchase, I check for the ingredients. I'm not technically allergic. I don't get hives or stop breathing, but I also don't feel like explaining my medical situation to avoid having a day or days ruined. Years ago, my dining companion arrived at Le Bernardin without a suit jacket, and they offered him one in his size to wear at the table. And he politely refused. Then I was having such a grand time at our 10-course tasting menu dinner, I decided to pause and go out for a cigarette halfway through. Frown. I know now this is really difficult for the servers and the chef. Surely we were that evening's nightmare guests, but they made us feel special and welcome. That is where I first learned the true art of subtlety. I was looking around for my lighter, and a waiter appeared with a packet of matches and set them on the table without a word. I try really hard not to cuff my runny nose. I was brought up with fine dining table habits by parents that valued proper children over happy children. Thankfully, they're totally on board with having happy adult children, and it turns out I'm a few steps away from being a wild animal, so some really uncouth habits have formed. Plus, I have a perpetually runny nose. Never drink from a glass without wiping your lips first. The other people at the table don't want to look at your greasy food residue left behind. To add to this, while waiting for everyone to get their meal is the polite thing to do in general, it's also better to wait until the host starts eating, because they may be religious and say a grace prayer to bless the food and thank God for quality time with the dinner party first. Even if you yourself are not religious, it's still respectful to participate, and pretty much essential if it's a situation where you need to leave a good impression. I was caught unaware at non-fine dining outings before a couple of times when I was young, since my family doesn't regularly do this, and the embarrassment scared me out of eating before everyone gets settled among people I don't know well, since lol. I grew up in the southern US. It's fairly common among family dinners there, but also not unheard of for more formal occasions. Contribute to the conversation, but do not dominate it. Do not tuck your napkin into your shirt collar, it goes in your lap. Do not forget to offer to pass the bread/butter/sugar/cream. When you need to get up from the table, excuse yourself, but do not make a giant scene deal about it. Do not order anything you need to eat with your hands, or spaghetti. Fine dining, especially like in a traditional setting in Europe, is a dance. They are career individuals whose joy is to make your experience the best it can be. If you are not sure, ask their recommendation or ask for a little help. In the same vein, if you are experienced, respect their craft, and the evening will be like a dance. Everyone will be happy, laughing, and engaged. Treat them as partners, and I guarantee you will have an experience like no other. Of course, they have to be up for it as well. Learn your part, what smells, tastes, sights, and textures you like and don't like. There are options and there are some limits. Listen and look for hints, ask questions, be engaged. I remember this as happening once for me and some extended family in Paris on a trip. It was magical. Don't bring small children with you. They won't enjoy it, you won't enjoy it, and if you can afford to go to such an establishment, you can afford a babysitter. When taking butter, don't use the serving knife to spread it on your bread. Use the serving knife to take a slab of butter and deposit it onto your plate, then use your own knife to spread it on your bread. If you are at a restaurant, any restaurant, not just fine dining, that serves a cuisine that is not of your cultural background, do not mock the accents of people from that cultural background. Not when ordering, not when discussing the menu, and not when conversing at your table you think is private. Don't do it at all, ever, but certainly not in public and at a volume where other people can overhear. It may sound hard to believe that there are troglodytes that would actually behave this way, but money does not buy class. Do not butter your whole piece of bread. Take butter from the butter dish and put it on your bread plate, then only butter each bite. Also, if you don't know which bread plate is your, make the OK hand signal with both hands. The left one forms a B and the right forms a D. So bread plate is on your left and drink is on your right. The bread and butter thing. My mother-in-law asked me about this when we were out somewhere. She's from Long Island and 70. I'm from North Carolina, in my 30s, and took cotillion-esque manners course in elementary school. She was like, "Why did you do that with your butter?" And I explain about my family was too poor for real cotillion shit, and she's like, "We were taught the exact opposite in Jewish neighborhood New York equivalent of cotillion for young gals in the 1960s. I have a wicked high metabolism and I've been told when I eat it looks like I haven't eaten for weeks. I basically wolf my food down, not on purpose really, it's just how I eat. Now I try to very slowly eat my food, which is annoying. Even after being the first one to finish at the dining table I typically order more food because I'm just hungry lol. Don't take pictures of your food. Flash photography is very irritating to the people sitting around you who are also paying a lot of money to have a fine dining experience. Just enjoy the taste of the food and the memory of it, or spend the first hour making tic-tacs and Snapchat while getting completely trashed. Flash photography is just obnoxious no matter where you are. Food photography looks absolutely awful with the phone camera flash. You probably shouldn't be taking that picture unless it's a friendly group picture in poor light. Even then, phone flashes produce the worst pictures always. Do not ask the hot waitress if she wants your meat as she serves you your filet mignon. Do not pull a Gordon Ramsay. For those of you who don't know what pulling a Gordon Ramsay is, do not walk into the kitchen and call the chefs fucking donkeys or cuss them out for missing the fucking lamb sauce, cooking raw fucking meat, or just being a fucking dumbass. This will only piss the chefs off and result in them throwing whatever is in their hands at the moment at you, usually a knife or pan. Do not ask for the chocolate lava cake. It's too good. It will result in 20-35 cakes being eaten by you and then lead to you gaining 10-15 pounds. Do not fall for the trap. Nope, this is absolutely a high society table rule. Also, you are not supposed to blow on it, so this technique helps you avoid that. You delicately scoop a small amount of soup into your spoon and motion away from your body. While it cools, this is your chance to keep eye contact with someone at the table and contribute to the conversation. I wish I was making this up, but it's true. It's also not a bad idea if you don't want people blowing their germs all over the dinner table. One that personally annoyed me in a fine dining situation: the waiter must individually serve you pieces of bread. My wife and I tried eating at Hubert Keller's restaurant in San Francisco. While I'm in conversation with my wife, a waiter interrupted me to push a basket of assorted bread at me and ask me if I wanted some. Startled, I started to grab a piece with my own hands. The waiter scolded me and let me know he must put a piece on my plate with his little tongs. I wasn't used to this protocol and found it really annoying. If you have a nice variety of fresh baked bread for us, put it on our table where we can't try any of the breads at our leisure, and don't interrupt my conversation unnecessarily. I try to avoid or at least minimize sauces in the things I order because I'm a klutz and I'm certain to get a glop of something on my suit or my tie. Making a sailor's hat out of the fine linen napkins, lifting up your shirt and using the silverware to bang on your nipples while running around screaming "I'm Captain Nipple Pants, I am Captain Nipple Pants." You may not get arrested for it, but I did. Not really a do not, but still good advice. If you need to excuse yourself mid-meal, to use the toilet for example, your napkin goes on the seat of your chair. At the end of the meal your napkin goes on the table. Also, your fork and knife shouldn't keep switching hands. You should rotate your plate instead of passing utensils back and forth between your hands. Not quite the point of your comment, but as a server, I get annoyed when the customer asks me to ask the chef for something like tips on how to recreate the recipe at home, or just straight up the recipe. The cooks are very busy. The servers are every busy. The cooks don't have time to stand and go through their prep list, and the servers get the heat from having to stop and ask the cooks the recipe. I mean, I can see what you're saying and I'm definitely gonna try it. But the operative word in my comment is easily. Can I make a paella at home? Yes, but it's not easy and I could definitely benefit from meeting a professionally made one and picking the chef's brain. I'm saying don't go to a fine dining place and order yourself a grilled cheese. Don't forget you are paying them to be there. I don't mean be a dick or start throwing your food around, but don't be intimidated either. If you don't know what something is, or what cutlery to use, or don't know which wine to order, who cares? The restaurant wants you as a customer and the servers are literally paid to serve you. In my household when I was a child, German grandparents and mom, it was just the basics, that is, no elbows on the table, both feet firmly on the ground, sit up straight and chair tucked in. No drinking before and during a meal. The host, cook or the one paying eats first. Don't scrap the knife on the plate and you are not to speak unless spoken to. It might seem stupid to some but it has helped me be a lot more polite and courteous at a table. Try and use your knife and fork in the European style rather than the American style. European style you hold your knife in your right hand and your fork in your left with the tines facing down, and you cut food into small bite-sized pieces as you go, and sorta pile food onto the back of the fork with your knife. American style is where you cut up all the food and then switch the fork to your right hand and eat with just the fork. Also following on from that is don't pile food onto the fork. Just take small mouthfuls because you will look much more delicate and graceful and you also will be chatting with your fellow diners and they don't wanna be waiting for you to chew your massive bit of steak so you can answer a question. ITT. A lot of pointless elitism. A meal is supposed to be an enjoyable experience for all involved, not a bloody exam. Obviously one should avoid doing anything that grosses out or annoys fellow diners, or that makes the staff's job more difficult, but memorizing and following lists of arbitrary rules, or judging others according to them, is the opposite of pleasant to normal people. No gross sounds, burping, lip smacking, no absurd demands, all requests made politely, everything as neat and tidy as possible. But damn straight I'm going to cut up my food first if I want to, and butter all my bread, and put my napkin in my lap or tuck it into my collar as I feel the need to, or ask for condiments and seasonings for my food that I'm eating. If I suspect my company, or the restaurant I'm going to, will look badly on these things, then I may as well stay home, pour something on my clean shirts, eat a raw head of lettuce, smack myself in the face, and flush 100 down the toilet. At least the experience will be over with faster. Sheesh. Do not ask to have a bit from a girl's plate unless you're sure she is the type to say yes. She could start feeling a little self-conscious about what she eats, and sometimes get something light on the stomach so they don't feel sick. I had to do this once myself. I recently turned 15 May 17th of this year, 2021. I asked if the guy I liked and liked me back could come. I couldn't decide what to eat because the menu seemed smaller than the original Applebee's I went to. I was nervous of what my father would think of him, and so I grabbed the only thing I believed I could actually eat, the chicken salad. I ended up eating the chicken and slowly died while everyone was laughing and my dad was assessing my now current boyfriend.